Hello everybody, my name is Dr. Sam Clark and I'm the Academic Liaison and Outreach Coordinator here at Heriot-Watt University. So welcome to this evening's event. Tonight we're going to be talking about college to university transitions, and specifically we're going to be talking about accounting and finance at Heriot-Watt University. So before we get started, just a couple of things to mention. Firstly, we are going to be recording this session this evening and it will go onto the university web pages at a later stage. And just to reassure you that we only record what's on screen, we can't see you at home. Secondly, we encourage you to ask questions throughout the event this evening, and you can do so by typing into the chat facility. Now, the good thing about this is that it's an anonymous facility, so when you type in a question, it's only our moderators that can see it. None of the other audience members can see it. No question too great or too small, no such thing as a stupid question. So type in your questions throughout the event and hopefully we'll be able to answer as many as we can as we go through. So tonight it's not just me that's talking, I'm also going to be joined by Darren Jubb, who is a professor in accountancy and finance at Heriot-Watt. We're also joined by Rachel Whittington, who's a learning advisor and liaison librarian, and Tracy Kerr, who's widening participation manager. And we're also joined this evening by Heather McGregor, who's the Executive Dean of the Edinburgh Business School. So what I'm going to do now is hand over to Heather for a little bit of an introduction to the business school. So if I stop sharing my slides now, hopefully we can pass over to Heather.
Excellent. So hello everybody, good evening and welcome to our information evening. This is an information evening focused on studying accounting at Heriot-Watt University. I'm Heather McGregor, as it was said. I'm the Executive Dean, i.e. the boss of the Edinburgh Business School, which is the business school of Heriot-Watt University. Now, we're a very comprehensive business school. We offer lots of different subjects and accounting is just one of them, but it's a great subject to study at university for lots of reasons. First of all, there's some great people that teach it, and you're going to meet Darren on this call in a few minutes. And secondly, the people who study accounting go on to do great things, and not everybody wants to be an accountant, a qualified accountant for the rest of their life. People don't even go on to qualify as an accountant afterwards. But everybody who studies with us and who enjoys this course gets on and actually does really well afterwards, because it's such a great foundation for anything that you want to do in business. And even I am studying accounting in my spare time, so it just goes to show you that it's a really important subject for anybody who's as passionate about business as I am and who wants to be part of successful businesses. And I think you've got to remember that every exciting, successful business that is out there, it doesn't matter whether it's Tesla, or it's wonderful new digital marketing agencies, any business in the world needs people to manage the money and to make sure that the accounts are a true and fair narrative of what's really there. So that's why we make it very interesting. You also have the opportunity to study other things along the way. It's not, there are options and different subjects that you can study, as well as all the mandatory courses. And Heriot-Watt is a great place to choose if you've been at college. We take a lot of people who come from college into different stages of our degree programs, and they're always extremely welcome, and they'll find other people like them who have started, not always right at the beginning, but who join us in years 2 or 3 or whatever. So, I hope that you will find the evening interesting. I hope that you will ask any questions you want to at the end, and I look forward to welcoming you to Heriot-Watt in due course. Thank you.
So thank you very much to Heather. That was a really good intro to tonight's event, and hopefully we'll hear more about the business school from Darren later. So just a quick introduction to what we're going to do tonight. I'm going to talk a little bit about the university and the kind of learning and teaching at Heriot-Watt. I'll pass over to Darren to go into more detail about accounting and finance. We'll then hear from Rachel about study skills and that transition from college to university and the sort of support that's available. And then we will go on to entry requirements, and Tracy will tell us some more specifics about if you are inspired to come and study accounting and finance with us, then hopefully Tracy will be able to cover some of the entry requirements. As I said before, please type in your questions in the chat box and we'll try and answer them as we go along. So a little bit about Heriot-Watt generally. We were established in 1821, so it's quite an old university, but you probably wouldn't be able to tell that by visiting one of our campuses. The campuses are really quite nice places to be. They've got really state-of-the-art facilities. And the buildings look really sort of exciting. So it's not like a kind of dusty sort of Hogwarts. It's best of both worlds. It's a very well-established university, but it's also got really state-of-the-art facilities. It's a specialist institution with really strong industry links, and we've got really diverse student cohort, so 30,000 students worldwide, all different backgrounds, cultures, all coming together to study together. So it's really a really diverse place to study. We have excellent graduate prospects. So Heriot-Watt is one of the top places in Scotland for graduate starting salaries. So if you are wanting to kind of move up the career ladder, that's a great place to start. We have 100 plus partner institutes all around the world and 5 purpose-built campuses. And if I show the next slide, you can see that where these campuses are based. So the Edinburgh Business School, as the name suggests, is based in Edinburgh, but we've also got campuses in Orkney and Galashiels and Dubai and Malaysia. And so it really is a truly global university. We've got partnerships in lots of different places. I won't go into too much about accounting this evening because, of course, Darren is going to tell us a lot more specifically, but there are a couple of courses that you can study with us, accountancy and finance, and both of those are really well rated courses. So I won't go into more because Darren will be able to tell us more later. The teaching at university might be slightly different from what you've experienced at college previously. So we have 2 10-week terms, which means you get a big holiday in the summer and some time off at Christmas and the 2 terms in between. Contact hours vary, and we've got a range of teaching styles and environments. We have virtual learning environment vision. And that's really important at the moment because we're using a blended approach to our learning. So we have some face-to-face things and other things online, and we use that platform to do that. We have a My HWU student portal app, and what's really good about that is it's a one-stop shop for all your student needs. So when you join the university, it can be a bit overwhelming sometimes with, how to get IT services or the library or a whole load of different things. So that's all really handy in one place, and you can just bring it up. And we have a range of different styles of teaching: lectures, tutorials, seminars, labs, lots of different types. Learning at university is a little bit different as well. So we have it's much less directed learning than at college, and Rachel will go into this a little bit more in her session later, so I'll just touch on it. But yeah, fewer timetable hours. Just because you have maybe 4 contact hours doesn't mean that you only do 4 hours worth of work in the week. We'd expect you to be doing some independent study. And if you haven't done that before, sometimes that can be a bit daunting, but there's lots of support out there to help you to be able to sort of adjust to that style of learning. And like I said, Rachel will be able to go through that in a little bit more detail later. The university is absolutely a global university. As we said, lots of different opportunities to both study and work abroad, intercampus transfers, exchanges with partner institutions. There's lots of opportunities, even if you don't study abroad, but to at least connect into people from all over the world and get different perspectives, which is really great. Wellbeing, of course, is very important. We have personal tutors, counselling service. Careers and graduate futures is all about what happens after university and making sure your journey into employment is smooth. The disability service is a really important one. So if anybody out there is using the disability service currently in their college studies, so things like extra time in exams or scribe, like things like that, then tell us on your UCAS application or tell us, email us and let us know, because often the university can replicate the sort of support. So you're not going from loads of support to nothing. That we will try and replicate and help. Student success advisors are another fantastic resource, because these are students who have just come through the process and graduated very recently, and they can help. So it's not like you're getting advice or chatting to people who have studied 40 odd years ago and can't remember what it's like to be a student. These are people that have gone through it really recently, and they can give you advice and help. And of course, we also have medical practice and a multi-faith chaplaincy on our campuses. Sport is another really big thing at Heriot-Watt University. So we have loads of really top of the range facilities. The Orium, which is Scotland Sports Performance Centre, over 30 sports clubs, 70 fitness classes. So there's really state-of-the-art stuff to come and get involved in. It doesn't matter if you're a professional athlete or you're more like me, you just want to have some fun, meet some people, maybe get a little bit fit. There's lots of opportunities to be involved, and yeah, really state-of-the-art stuff. And accommodation as well, I won't go into this too much, but just to say that Heriot-Watt have an accommodation guarantee that's slightly different from some other institutions, in that we guarantee accommodation in your first year of study. So that's why that's important, is if you were joining us in the second or third year of the degree programme, then that doesn't matter at Heriot-Watt, because their accommodation guarantee is for your first year of study. So if you choose to take that up and choose to come to the accommodation, then we have lots of different options and lots of different price points, etc. But yeah, we can find out more information about that on our web pages. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pass over to Dr. Darren Jupp, who is going to tell us more about the accountancy and finance specifically at Heriot-Watt, and hopefully this time I will manage to share the right thing and it won't crash. So hopefully we can pass over to Darren now. So I'll stop sharing and we'll pass over to Darren.
Thanks, Sam. Hello everyone. Welcome along. Hope we're good. Glad to be here. Although I nearly didn't make it along. I was a bit worried because my daughter, who's about 3.5, has been going to bed between 6:30 and 7 without fail for about 6 weeks, and then obviously tonight being the night that I was going to come to speak to you guys, she was messing about at bedtime. So I'm sitting there reading the books, wishing that she was going to close her eyes. And I've read these books about 100 times. We're on Christmas books already. We're on Christmas lights are up, Christmas tree is up. We're embracing Christmas early this year, which I think, given 2020, is probably allowable. But yeah, I'm getting a bit bored of the Christmas books already. So a bit of Christmas cheer in our house and something cheery tonight, accounting. But hopefully you guys with your experience accounting will know that there's a lot more to accounting than first meets the eye. So all I'm going to do today, and I'll share some slides in a moment, is talk you through what it's like to study at Heriot-Watt, give you some insights into how we do it, talk a little bit about both what goes on in the classroom and beyond the classroom. But before we do that, I probably should introduce myself a little bit more. I'm only 31, but I'm a kind of Heriot-Watt stalwart already. I did my undergraduate accounting and finance degree at Heriot-Watt and graduated about 12 years ago now, and then from there I went on to study with ICAS and got a professional training position to become a chartered accountant. So I worked in the chartered accountancy for about 3.5 years, qualified as a chartered accountant, and then decided to come back and do my PhD again at Heriot-Watt. So then I've been Heriot-Watt as an undergraduate student, as a PhD student, and as a staff member. So I've seen all sides of it. So I think so I can just about remember what it's like to be a student here. So I think that kind of helps when I'm speaking to students, speaking to people at open days, and it's a shame we're not doing this face to face and having a bit more of a chat. But so hopefully that gives me a sort of a unique insight into what it's like to study at Heriot-Watt, and I do try to put that across whenever possible. And as I say, what we're going to do today is we're really just going to talk through what it's like to study accounting at Edinburgh Business School. Heather's done an introduction to what the business school is, so I won't go into too much detail about that. Sam has obviously indicated some of the key things about Heriot-Watt, so that sets us up quite well to go on to start thinking about two things today: studying with us, so what it's like to be in the classroom, and but as I said, we'll look beyond the classroom. So first of all, looking at studying with us, all we're going to talk about there is, first of all, our degree programs. So we're going to have we've got two degree programs that we're offering, as was highlighted earlier. We've got our ME Accountancy and our ME Accountancy in Finance. Now, the thing to say, it's a little bit complicated in the sense that we've got these programs are new programs. We're launching them from next year, and that will be the full 4-year programs that we're going to be launching. Now, a lot of the people here today, and this is something we can maybe flesh out a bit in the questions and answers part, a lot of people today might be wanting to come direct into second year or third year. And if you are coming direct into second or third year, you would be going directly into our current MA Accountancy and Finance. So we've started the last, what we call the teach out of our current MA Accountancy and Finance. So we're going to be doing the next few years. We're going to be doing year 2, 3 and 4 of that program before it then goes out of commission, as it were. So you'll be joining the existing cohort. So I've just finished teaching the first year, and you'll be joining them in second year, or you'll be joining the third years on that older program, unless you choose to start at the beginning. So the other element of that, and again that's can be quite confusing, is the accreditations. So our degrees are fully accredited, and our existing degree is fully accredited by all of the major professional bodies. So AIA, ACCA, CIMA, ICAW, and the body I studied with, ICAS. And potentially you can get up to 9 exemptions depending on the options that you take. And don't worry, when you come to study here, you'll be allocated a personal tutor, and we will make sure you take the right subjects as and when it's appropriate to advise you on that. And when I was an undergraduate student, we don't remember having to think about that. We kept it up to date. Now, if you join us in second or third year and you miss out first year, then at present, you're not going to be entitled to all of the accreditations, and you might miss out on some exemptions from future examinations. The sort of counter to that, and something that I've talked a lot with students over the years, is that it's not the be all and end all anymore to have full accreditation. So a lot of the graduates I've been speaking to over the last couple of years who've gone on to jobs, they've been saying that their firms, particularly the bigger firms, are asking them to sit the exams that they have exemptions for again anyway, because they're recruiting people from accountancy and finance, languages, history, geography, and they want everybody to start at the same level. So even if you don't get full accreditation, if you're joining us in second and third year, it doesn't stop you from going on to get a graduate job, and it certainly doesn't affect your employability. And again, I've been speaking to a lot of the college graduates. Michelle was supposed to join us tonight, but she had childcare commitments in the end. She's somebody who had joined us in the later stages, joined us in the third year, didn't have full accreditations, managed to secure a graduate job with Johnston Carmichael. And from last year's graduates, I think all of the college students, or near that I know of anyway, went on to graduate positions even though they didn't have full accreditation. So it's not the be all and end all, something that can be important to some firms, and again, obviously it makes your life a little bit easier. Beyond our programs, how do we teach you? How do you learn if you're studying here? Well, this year we've been using what's called responsive blended learning, which is a mixture of on campus and online. Who knows what the future is going to hold? We're going to be sticking with this probably in some format for the foreseeable future. So it's a mixture of interactive lectures. So we have 1 lecture hour per week. We have the whole class in attendance. It's traditional lecture style, but it's also interactive. We're plenty of scope for asking questions. And then we break into smaller groups for tutorials where we have small class discussions. And you would choose an hour slot. Classes would be 20 to 30 people for that. But then this year, we've all been learning all new skills. So we've been operating with lots of different learning techniques. So blogs, podcasts, videos, discussion boards, a full set of different techniques and ways of learning that is really bringing new tools to what we've been doing. But we've had a real mixture. We've had again, it's been a learning process. We're always working on it, getting better. And personally, from my courses, I think as the semester's gone on, we've all, and that's staff and students, got more comfortable with what we're doing, and we've kind of worked together to figure out what works best. So as I say, we don't know what it's going to look like in future, but I wouldn't be very surprised if we weren't retaining some of these new skills that we've learned, which I think is important. Beyond learning and teaching, then, how do we assess you? Variety, and even in this responsive blended learning, online driven kind of world, we still have class tests, individual essays, group projects, presentations, things that we call coursework. And on accountancy and finance, your final grade for most, all of your courses are made up of 30% of this coursework. So it could be an essay, a group essay, or presentation skills. And really, we're trying to develop you into a more rounded graduate there. We're trying to offer you skills as well as obviously assessing your learning. We're trying to make sure that you've got a range of different skills, and every class will be different, every course will be different, but we'll make sure that you get exposure to lots of different elements. And then 70% of your mark will still be in an end of semester examination. We've gone online this year, might be back to normal in the future, but you can expect a large proportion of your mark to be assessed on a traditional examination, and that's partly driven by the necessity to do so by the professional bodies. So a whole range of different assessment methods, learning methods, and essentially what we're doing across the full 4 years is as a sort of faculty of staff, and I think it's important for you guys to be able to see who's going to be teaching you, because we can't see you all face to face. Normally open days we would have an opportunity to chat face to face with a lot of you guys. As you can see, we've got a range of experiences, a range of backgrounds, we've got research expertise, professional expertise, and it really comes together to create a really good close community of staff members. And I've loved working with everybody that's in the department, and we've got lots of people who are towards the start of their careers and bringing fresh ideas to learning and to teaching, and that's been really useful for the department. I think I want to spend a minute or so talking about careers in accounting, because I think this is kind of the focus, especially if you're coming direct into third year. You're starting to turn your attention to graduation and where it's going, and I've kind of mapped out the traditional route for a lot of accounting graduates. So normally you would complete your degree program, graduate, you would then obtain a graduate job, hopefully, as a lot of the students I've been talking to have been doing, training contract for around 3 years, at the same time study towards a professional qualification. And then after 3 years of work experience and exams, you're a fully recognised accountant. And that's what I did before I decided to come back. And that's what I have a lot of students. That's the journey that they're now on. And it's amazing. They graduate and you think you'll never speak to them again, but they've been asking questions about, they've been telling me what they've been doing. I'm speaking to a student yesterday who's got an assessment centre at Baillie Gifford, and they're asking for advice on how to approach that. But that's not the only route. And I know a lot of our graduates who came out with an accounting and finance degree and have gone on to work in lots of different areas in business, within parts of the finance industry, a full range of different, or even gone on to set up their own business straight away, because an accounting degree gives you a solid understanding of business. It gives you a solid understanding of not just numbers, but the business world, and people have made use of that in lots of different ways. So that's kind of what all I really want to say on learning and teaching. Again, we'll open up for questions soon if you've got anything specific about that. But really, I wanted to say a little bit about what we do beyond the classroom, because that's important, and it's important to give you rounded, send you out as a rounded graduate with lots of skills. And one of the areas that we've added value, I believe, to the degree is through our Bloomberg Trading Room. And the Bloomberg Trading Room is something we've invested in that allows students to work with market data, real data, in a simulated environment. This is great for, it's good for putting on your CV, it's good for developing your skills, and it's important to develop an awareness of the world that you're going to be into after graduation. One of the problems that students often come to me with when they're going to look for jobs is, how do I get across that I know about the industry? How do I learn that? And one of the skills that you can learn with access to the Bloomberg Room is our Bloomberg Market Concepts course. And you get a certificate at the end of that. You can prove that you've got awareness of the finance industry in particular, something to talk about in an interview, something to show that you have good commercial awareness, which is what employers are looking for. So something that you can make use of if you were to come study here, which I think is important. Alongside that, we have our student-led investment society, which again gives you a really safe space to learn about investments, to learn about the finance industry, and they do lots of different things. They've got education programs covering financial analysis and what they call financial universe, again learning about the industry you're going into. They've got a yearly conference that brings in experts from the finance industry, fostering those links and giving you the opportunity to really engage with some of the big players within the Edinburgh finance industry. They've got a student-led magazine called Capital House, which you can contribute to, again helping build your understanding of the overall area. And they also, quite importantly for students, have regular social events and an annual trip abroad. And I was quite close to Lewis, who was the president last year, and you know, he talked to the students a couple of times when he was president, and he would really emphasise the importance of the social events, and in particular the annual trip abroad, which before COVID struck was being planned for Zante, which doesn't sound entirely educational to me. But I think, again, safe space to learn and to make friends and to really develop yourself when you're at university. Sam mentioned this earlier, go global. We've had a lot of students from accountancy and finance go global. We've had good success with it. The student I was speaking to, the other former student I was speaking to yesterday, Kelsey, went to Malaysia for a semester. The pictures you can see on the slide are from Poppy and Jennifer's trip to Malaysia, and I did ask Poppy to send us some pictures of them studying in Malaysia, but all I seemed to get was pictures of them traveling around Asia. So they did a bit of both, and you know, they love studying in a new culture, a new environment. They love being able to see a lot of Asia, and you know, it was studying abroad. It was a trip with friends, and they complained endlessly about all the lectures being scheduled for 9 o'clock in the morning. But at the same time, they were finished by lunchtime, and apparently the accommodation they had a pool, so they were poolside by the afternoon. Obviously, they were studying as well, allegedly, but they loved it. They did really well. Their grades weren't affected. They learned the same material they would learn in Edinburgh, and you know, they got to have a once-in-a-lifetime experience. So they really benefit from that. And then again, I won't keep you too long because I do want to take your questions. The last sort of thing I want to mention, again, something that Sam talked about, is the help and support that's on offer. And you know, we know, and this year shows it more than any other year, that to get from A to B is never straightforward, and we recognise that at Heriot-Watt. So we're here to support you. When you come, you'll be allocated a member of accounting staff as a personal tutor. We will follow you through the 4 years, have regular meetings, follow your results, give you advice. If there's anything that comes up, whether it's personal, academic, anything, you can come to us as a first port of call. The other sort of side of that is that staff within the accounting department are pretty contactable. Normally we have office hours when we're there physically, but over 2 hours a week, but many of us have open door policies as well. So if you, again, when we're back in the office, we have open door policies, and even this semester we've got online office hours where we're available to be chatted to. Very contactable via email, and we use Teams, lots of ways to get in touch with us, and we're happy to speak to students. And then related to all that, and something that Sam mentioned as well, was the dedicated wellbeing service. You can arrange appointments, you can drop in, you can contact them, they'll get back to you. Obviously, there's a range of things that can happen over your studies. You know, the amount of things that happen you wouldn't believe, and you know, it can be academic problems, it can be personal problems that are affecting your studies. They'll discuss things with you. They're really good. I know lots of people who've used them. And that's really all I want to say. I would like to hear your questions to see what information you actually need. I don't want to just regurgitate stuff that you can find on the internet. So the only thing that's left to say is thanks for watching. Please ask if you've got any questions. If you've got further questions after this, if you think of something later or you want to get in contact about anything else, please do email me. My email address is on the slide there. But that's it from me, really.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that, Darren. That was really comprehensive and quite good. So if you would like to type some questions in, then go for it. We have had a couple through already. So the first one, I think you kind of maybe already touched on the answer, but it was around, again, it's around the exemptions. So they're asking, is there like one course that would get more exemptions than the other? So I'm assuming for accountancy and finance.
No, is the no, is the answer. If you were to join us directly, if you were to join us from first year, again, this is where it gets a little bit. If you join us from first year, you would be going in at and doing the full 4-year course, and that would mean that you get, no matter again, it's sort of moving position. If you did MA accountancy, you'd be getting full exemptions. If you're doing MA accountancy in finance, there's a little bit more room for choice on that one, so it would depend on what you choose. If you join us in second or third year, you've missed first year and or second year, and you're not going to be able to get full exemptions. You will get some exemptions, but you won't be able to get full exemptions. And again, it depends on a little bit on course choice and stuff, and it's the sort of thing that we can advise you on when you start. Or if you do want more information, is they drop me an email and I can sort of try to outline it as best as possible in writing the exact makeup. But as I said, of the college students, I'm thinking about, off the top of my head, like the people that I've been speaking to recently, they've gone into ICAS training firms, and they've actually been told not to use their exemptions. So it's kind of like some of them have used them, some of them haven't. It's a bit of a moving picture on that. It depends on which employer you end up with.
Brilliant, perfect. Got another question around if you go abroad, would that affect exemptions?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, kind of. Yeah, and what happened? So when it depends again, it depends on when you go. So for example, this Poppy and Jennifer went in third year, and they went in the second semester of third year. So that meant that for one or two of the courses, they couldn't at that stage study in Malaysia at that point, so they missed out on exemptions. And again, it was a choice from Poppy and Jennifer. We talked to them extensively about this before they went, and they were like, the experience sort of outweighed the need for the exemption. And again, so Jennifer went on to work for Ernst & Young, and she worked in audit in Edinburgh, and Poppy went to London to work for JP Morgan again. So that decision didn't really affect their end result, but they did lose out on further exemptions.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. We've had a question about whether it's kind of like essays is like and sort of coursework versus like exams, like what kind of makeup.
Yeah. So as I sort of alluded to, 30% of your mark will be from coursework, and that will differ from course to course. Again, it depends on which stage you join us at as well. The earlier years tend to be more numerical based in coursework and exam questions. As you get to fourth year, we start to move towards more essay based for both coursework and exams. So it will be a real mixture across courses. So take one off the top of my head, for example, about taxation, which is a third year course. There's no real essay element to tax. That's probably why tax is the student's favourite course. It's all calculation, it's all numerical, kind of the comfort zone for an accounting and finance kind of student. And then in the second semester and third year, we have our research methods course to prepare you for your dissertation. That's essay based. So there's a real mixture across it. And as I said, 70% of your mark will come from an exam. The exact content of the exam will probably be a mixture of numerical questions and essays.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much. We've had another one around class sizes and how sort of many people are on the courses.
So again, if you joined us in first year, it would be big classes, because in first year we have students from management, economics, finance, all studying each other's subjects. So in accountancy and finance, we could have up to over 350 students in those classes. From second year onwards, drops down significantly to about 100 to 150. And then your fourth year classes, we offer much more choice again, and it sort of goes down a bit again to between, I had 64, I think, on my accounting history fourth year course. So I would say for the core second and third year, you're talking about maximum 150 at the moment. So big in terms of lectures, and something that we've been working on within the lecture is to try to make it a bit more interactive. But your tutorial sizes will be between 20 and 30 people. Presuming we get back to normal as well, face to face, we were able to work in small groups, discussion, and really better sort of environment for having those chats. But yeah, once you get into the last year, it becomes a little bit smaller classes, which is kind of good.
And just one more finally for now, what is the sort of proportion of people coming from colleges into the course like versus other routes?
Yeah, it goes up. I mean, I guess the recruitment guys could give you figures, but from what I've seen, it goes up and down. But last year, obviously this year's not over yet, but last year in my 4th year class, there was a big, quite a large number of the students on the 4th year class in accounting history were from college. I'm thinking that off the top of my head, I think there was 10 in the class, and to be honest, they were one of the best students in the class. Michelle, who was supposed to be with us, was from that class, and a couple of the other people that I'm still in touch with were from college. And what was interesting to see was from that was, like Michelle was a good example. It was a shame she couldn't come tonight, but she had a job. She worked in the solicitor's office. She had a young child. She was studying. She went on to get a first-class degree, and it's just interesting to see the sort of different people that came from college. But yeah, quite a number in the class. I don't know as much for this year because I haven't been able to speak to as many people that have been online. It's been a bit harder to chat to folk, but I think we've, obviously there's lots of students who've been there for a number of years, and that is, one of the steepest learning curves of joining us. With their 2nd or 3rd year, something that we're very aware of. We're trying to introduce as much support as possible for students that come in directly. But it's not just yourselves coming in directly from colleges across, even if the UK. We have a lot of direct entrants from abroad as well into 3rd year. So we're, there's lots of people coming in at different stages, and we are got mechanisms in place to try and make that as smooth as possible. And yeah, I think it's definitely something that we've been working on.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much, Darren. That was absolutely fantastic. We've had a few more questions, but some of them are kind of more sort of tailored around sort of entry requirement style things. So I think probably Tracy will be able to answer some of them later on. So thank you very much, Darren. That was really helpful. And if we do get further questions in that we can't answer, I'm sure we can get in touch with you and ask you those questions at a later stage and get the answers to people. But thank you. That was absolutely fantastic and really inspiring. So yeah, exciting.
Thank you.
So no problem. So what we will do now is hopefully move across to Rachel Whittington, who is going to talk about that transition from college to university and the support that is available at Heriot-Watt to help you move from one setting to the other. So I will pass over to Rachel now. Hopefully I won't muck it up and press the wrong button. And yeah, hopefully Rachel. Let's see.
That's great. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the introduction. Hopefully you can all see my slides now and everything as well. So my name is Rachel Whittington. I am a learning advisor and liaison librarian, typically based at the Edinburgh campus, although working remotely for the near future. And I'm just going to talk a bit about kind of some of the differences between studying at university versus college, basically kind of what's expected when studying at university. Then my top 5 study tips that I tell everyone, any student, regardless of, like I say, whether or not they're still studying at college or university. And then I'm going to talk about a lot of the support that's available as well at Heriot-Watt. First of all, yes, studying at university, as Sam had already mentioned, we're very focused on, like I say, what this term independent learning. Essentially, classes act as a bit of a roadmap, as a bit of a guide. They give you the introductory material, kind of the basic information and stuff that you'll need, but they don't give you everything. You will be expected to go out and find more information, perhaps more examples, more research. And you'll be much more in charge of your own work, of your own how you spend your time and stuff. But like I say, you're not just dropped into this alone. There is a huge amount of support to help you with that transition and kind of going forward. And as Darren mentioned before and stuff about with the amount of coursework and stuff that you may be asked to do, as well as exams. Typically, from a university essay, for example, what we say is that, it's writing universities kind of giving informed opinions, almost. So you may be writing essays or something, kind of discussing a topic or discussing a point where you might have to give an opinion or give an answer on something, but you're never just doing that from kind of, what you know or something beforehand. It's being informed by authoritative and appropriate information sources. And you'll be backing up any claims that you make in your work by citing and referencing a kind of high academic quality kind of material. And you may be asked as well to demonstrate originality. And when we talk about originality, we're not saying that doesn't mean you have to be the first person ever to have come up with something. As Darren was saying, you could be in classes, if you're joining in first year or something, of up to 300 people. So if you're all getting set the same assignment, the same essay question, you're not the chances of you being the only person to come to that conclusion is not particularly high. What we mean by originality in this sense is that you have come to the conclusion by yourself. You've come to the answer by yourself. So whether it's, like, say, a numerical question you've been set, or an essay or a report or something, you have looked at the sources, you've evaluated them, you've critiqued them, and you've done the work and you've come to the answer yourself. You've not been spoon-fed the answer. But like I say, again, there's a lot of help from available to help you with this. So my top 5 study techniques, especially, like I say, relevant for university, but also for any situation when you're studying. The first one is to make sure you spread the work over the week. So if 5 hours on a topic spread over a week is better than doing 5 hours on that topic in one sitting. When we're studying, when we're learning, the brain is constantly making and breaking connections. When you're learning, it makes the connections to that material. But as soon as you stop using it, your brain starts forgetting it straight away, especially if it's something new and you've never experienced before. So the way to kind of strengthen those connections, to stop yourself from forgetting it as quickly, is to keep looking at it, to keep revisiting the material. So spread the work over the week. And to kind of help with this, because of course not everybody's timetable or home situation or anything is maybe conducive to being able to study lots in every single day. We all have other commitments, family, hobbies, etc. Use something called the Pomodoro technique. Now, Pomodoro is Italian for tomato, and it's named after little tomato oven timers, hence the lovely cartoon of a tomato oven timer there. And the idea behind the Pomodoro technique is you literally just set a timer for 30 minutes and work solidly on something for those 30 minutes. No distractions. You just sit down for 30 minutes and get it done. If you don't have 30 minutes, set it for 20 minutes or 15 minutes, however much time you have. But the idea is you actually just sit for the amount of time that you have, or the amount of time that your attention span will allow you to, get some work done, and then take a short break, and then repeat if you have the time available afterwards. And the best way to make the most of having those those smaller bits of time to work on is to set yourself SMART goals. Now, you may be familiar with SMART goals already. It's quite a common concept in business when it comes to setting objectives, but it also works for setting personal goals and personal objectives. So SMART goals are specific. They're on something in particular. They're measurable. You can tell if they've been achieved. They are achievable. given your time, your time constraints, skills that you have, etc. They are relevant to something bigger that you're trying to achieve. So your study goals, your career goals, your personal goals, etc. And they're timely. They occur in a set amount of time. So, for example, in the next 15 minutes, I'm going to read one journal article. Would be an example of a SMART goal, because you can tell if you've achieved it or not. It's within a short amount of time. You've set the time it's going to happen in. It's achievable and relevant, and it's specifically on a certain thing. And the other thing I would suggest as well when you're studying is to mix up the study methods that you use. So rather than just constantly writing things out, or just rereading notes over and over again, try different methods. Create lots of different pathways to the same information. So, for example, if you're doing numerical, like maths, one of the best ways of kind of remembering maths is to just do the problems, just to practice doing different equations, different things over and over. But try also talking about what you're doing at the same time. So saying out loud the steps that you're taking. Instead of just writing out notes in linear fashion, for example, you can then take those notes that you've made in a lecture maybe and turn it into a mind map and associate images with it. Mix up kind of the methods that you're using. And I've kind of alluded to this already as well, but talk about the work that you're doing. Find study partners that you can work with, quiz each other. Ask yourself how something works, why something works. Ask that of the other person as well. Again, because there's something about being able to talk about the work that also really helps with understanding and with memory as well. Another thing, there's a phrase in kind of medical education called see one, do one, teach one. And it's exactly the same for any other kind of education. It still works. The idea is that, you see something being done, you do it yourself. And then the final level of understanding and learning is being able to teach it to someone else. So even just preparing material to teach to someone else can help. Even just talking out loud to an inanimate object on your desk. So for example, I'm not sure if you can see my camera, but this is mine. And that's kind of based on something that I found out from computer programming. The program is rubber duck debugging. The idea that if there's a problem with a code, the programmer would sit and explain the code out loud, because it helps you to kind of see the problem from a different perspective. And also, if you're working with another person, then you can get their input as well. So those are my five top tips for this for studying. I could talk about study skills, different study tips, like I say, all day, all night. I could be here forever, so I've got to stop myself somewhere. But like I say, there's a lot of support available. We do. We provide webinars. We do one-to-one support as well. So, for example, if you're needing help with, organising your time, prioritising or something, then somebody can sit down with you and talk to you about that. And there's also a lot of online material that you can look through in your own time as well as a student here. Now, one half of my job, I'm a liaison librarian. So each school has their own liaison librarian, and the liaison librarians help with finding that authoritative and accurate kind of information sources, the best information sources for your subject. We help with the citing and referencing methods that you'll be asked to use in your assignments. So how to use Harvard referencing, for example, or any other referencing style you may be asked to use. And we also provide help with using a particular software that you can get as a student here, and that software is called EndNote. And EndNote is fantastic because what you can do is you can insert a citation in your work and it formats that reference list for you at the end. So you still need to know how to cite and reference because it may make mistakes. It's a machine. It doesn't know if it's made a mistake or not. If there's information in the wrong field, for example, but it can save you a lot of time. And so we provide training on that as well. For more information about the information sources and stuff that we provide access to, so for example, there's a screenshot here of Discovery, our library catalogue, and search engine that searches physical items across all of our campuses, and it searches online resources as well. But there's also a link here to the subject guide for accounting and finance. Obviously, a lot of these resources are ones that we subscribe to, so you'd need to be a student to kind of use them or look at them properly, but you can get an idea of the kind of stuff that we provide. And there's a guide here on EndNote as well, so you can kind of see a bit more about kind of what EndNote is all about. And the other half of my role is I'm a learning advisor. And what we help with is we help with all the kind of study skills that won't be necessarily be covered specifically as part of your course. So we help with study strategies, exams and revision, time management, reading and note making, presentation skills, getting the best out of group work and teamwork, being able to work with others, you know, dealing with conflict and stuff, although hopefully that would never arise, but you know, all these different things that are not just helpful for you as a student, but you can also take forward as well as you know, transferable employability skills, that sort of thing. And we have a guide here, the Academic Study Skills Guide. We've got links to all sorts of information here on those different topics. And a lot of the stuff on this guide is open and available for anyone to use. So we've got tips, links to other resources online for these different things, etc. And there's also in there as well a link on that guide that goes to maths and statistics resources, and that will take you to the maths gym, which is a separate department that I'm not a part of, but they are the maths support centre essentially. There's lots of webinars that they run on maths and stuff, and provide kind of more support in that area. But in my role as librarian and learning advisor, I was mentioning about webinars that I teach. So we do online webinars as part of something called the Skills Hub, and there's more information on Skills Hub here, along with some other kind of resources and stuff. So things that'll be on the Skills Hub guide are things like interactive tutorials, videos, handouts, etc., that we'd use in these webinars. And of course, already mentioned, but you know, there's a lot of other support as well. So for example, the Student Wellbeing Service that has already been mentioned, but you know, provides access to wellbeing advisors, counsellors, disability service, etc. The Student Union Advice Hub as well is there to give help and support with kind of wellbeing and with study topics, and of course your personal tutors. So I've just included links here to kind of find more information about those, the services that those areas provide as well. So yeah, thank you very much for listening. If anybody has any questions for me, then like I say, I'll be here and I'll be hanging around at the end as well, in case anyone has those questions. But otherwise, yeah, thank you.
Brilliant, thank you very much, Rachel. That's very useful pieces of information there. We have had one question, which is around about how if someone had an essay question or a research task and they had absolutely no idea where to start, is that something that you could help them with, to be able to, you know, give them that support to kind of, if you've got something and you have absolutely no idea where to find the information, I guess, could they come to you and you could help them with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So like you say, with that, hopefully, like I say, the first thing we'd say, you know, obviously is hopefully your lecturer will have spent time to kind of explain the task and what you need to do. But yeah, if you're struggling to find information for your assignment, then you can talk to the liaison librarian for your school. For social sciences, it would be Marion Kennedy, who's my colleague. I'm the liaison librarian for maths and computer science, but learning advisor for all UK campuses. It's kind of split slightly differently in the two roles. But yeah, so she would be able to help with finding the information, and me and the other learning advisors can help with, like say, understanding the question, what you need to do, how to write the essay, you know, kind of how you'd set it out, how to write a good paragraph in an essay, kind of what's expected, that sort of thing, or for a report as well, how a report would be structured, and stuff. That's how what we can provide support with as well.
Perfect, thank you. We've just had another one in here that is if you can't physically get to the library, like could they get copies of things online, or is there online support, you know, if you can't actually physically get to the building?
Yeah, I mean, like I say, a lot of our materials are online anyway. So when the COVID thing happened, or first happened, we were actually in quite a fortunate situation because we're a global university. Our purchasing priorities are online first. So if a textbook is requested, if it's available electronically, we buy that because it'll be used across the different campuses. So a lot of our books and journal articles and stuff are all available online. And often as well, if you've got any required reading for any chapters of any books or anything, then the lecturer can make a request to the library to make a scan of that chapter available online. And assuming it falls within copyright law, then we can do that as well. And like I say, all the liaison librarians and learning advisors are working remotely at the moment anyway. So when it comes to library support, you know, all the one-to-one things we're doing are online. And even when we're back on campus, we will still be doing that. We were doing it before anyway as well. You know, you can have one-to-one appointments with us online. And like I say, there's going to be lots of kind of online kind of extra kind of support material on there as well.
Brilliant, thank you very much. That was really useful, and hopefully everyone found that really useful information. So thank you very much, Rachel. We will move on now. If you have any further questions for Rachel, please just put them in the chat and we can come to them at the end. But what I'll do now is pass over to Tracy. So Tracy's going to talk more specifically about entry requirements, and if everything that you've heard from Heather and Darren and Rachel has inspired you to think, oh, you'd like to potentially apply, then Tracy will hopefully be able to tell you how to do that. So I'll pass over to Tracy now.
Hi folks, and thanks Sam for handing over. So as Sam said, my name is Tracy Kerr and my title is Widening Participation Manager, and what that means for you guys is I'm essentially responsible for the recruitment and support of college students throughout the whole process. My background is actually I was a college student, I was a mature student, and I used college to get into university. I used a swap access course, which was for mature students and got me into first year. But I am very aware of the kind of differences between colleges and universities study, and I'm here to say it's actually fine. It's not a problem. We are all here to support you. That's exactly what we're kind of trying to tell you as we go through this presentation. So what I'm going to concentrate on just now is entry requirements and how to apply. Now, we've had a couple of questions already about entry requirements. Hopefully this will cover it. If it doesn't, that's okay. Just keep putting those questions in the question box. They are anonymous. We're the only ones to see them, and I'd be more than happy to answer them at the end. Equally, if there's other things that we've not talked about yet, please keep those questions coming. We've had one already about kind of supporting people through internships and stuff, and we'll address that too. So what we're going to do, is first thing I'm going to look at is what we call entry routes and articulation. So there's a bunch of different ways that you can actually access university study. The traditional route that everybody kind of thinks of is you go to school, you study hires, you might get advanced hires, you go into university into the first year of the course. Sometimes with advanced hires you can go into the second year of the course. Now equally, you can study hires at college, or you can do the access course that I was trying to tell you about that I used. So these are the kind of two main routes to get you into first year. However, if you're on an HNC or an HND course, you could use them to get into year 1 too. But as long as it's in a relevant subject like accountancy or sometimes business for second year in HND, then you can get this advanced entry that we've been talking about. You can come into either second year or third year within HND. Now to give you an idea of the kind of grades we're looking at, for hires, you're pretty much talking about 2 A's and 2 B's, or if you're eligible for what we call a minimum entry requirement, that would be 3 B's and a C. We're normally looking at them for over what we call 2 sittings or 2 years. So that would say, for instance, be 5th and 6th year at school, or you maybe did 1 year of hires at school and now you're doing another year at set of hires in college. Equally, if you're a mature student using a SWAP course, there's a student profile that we use for a SWAP course, and that's Bs in that student profile, 3 Bs. And we'd looked for you to have studied what they call level 5 maths. It's the equivalent of a national 5, an intermediate 2 maths, something like that. If you're looking at year 1 for using an HNC or an HND, then you're looking at kind of B grades in your graded units. But as you can see, if we're looking at advanced entry, we're kind of looking at E's. So if you got an A in your graded unit in the HNC, you could get year 2. And if you got all E's in your HND, you could get year 3. Please remember though that if you weren't getting all E's in your HND, it's not the end of the world. So for instance, we might take you into second year if you got A's and B's. What we do is we look at the application, we look at all your experience, your reference from your college lecture, all these different kind of things, and we'll make an offer based on everything. So don't sweat it if you don't think you're going to get those 3 A's. It's not the end of the world, and there's usually an entry point that we can get you into. What we're looking for, what most universities are looking for, is what you see on the screen. It's basically what we need you to do is show us why you'd be a good student in that subject. So obviously we're looking for strong academic background, we're looking at the grades, but enthusiasm for the subject. A lot of people kind of forget to mention the subject they're applying for. And first and foremost, that's the most important. What do you know about the subject and why are you interested in studying that subject? You don't have to know everything there is to know about accountancy, because obviously that's why you're coming to university, to learn more. But just, you know, as long as you haven't just stuck a pin in a book and went, yeah, that'll do, accountancy will do. Our range of skills and experiences. Now, again, there's some common misconceptions about this. A lot of people, particularly in certain schools, might think, oh, you need to have your Gold Duke of Edinburgh Award or be captain of the rugby team or prefect or all these kind of things. And college students kind of think, well, that's not going to help. I can't do any of that. But it's not, there's not a kind of checklist of these things. Rather, it's what these things mean. So for instance, if you're captain of your sports team, then what it's actually saying is you are good at your sport and you are responsible. You are trusted in a leadership position. You are able to be relied upon and you can apply yourself to get good at a sport. These are the things that are important, because, and these can be shown in a lot of different ways. And so actually sometimes college students, particularly mature students, have an advantage here because you have life skills already. I kind of half-jokingly say that if you've worked on a telephone line, a customer service line, and you haven't been fired for swearing down the phone at someone, then you've got really good communication skills and probably an awful lot of patience as well. And these are the kind of things we're looking for. Think about what makes you a good student. Personal statement, clear, concise, treat it like an essay. So some of the stuff that Rachel's been talking about would actually be for you writing your personal statement. And try and avoid waffling. We'll talk about it in a minute. Be positive. Don't slag anybody off. Don't criticise lecturers or anything like that. Be positive and supportive about the kind of subject you want to apply for. Make sure your language, you're treating this like an essay, so your language is formal, you're not using text speak, you're not using colloquialisms, and work experience if you have it. So if you have something that you think would be relevant to bring in, then mention that, but make sure you mention why it's relevant. There's lots of ways to do that, and it doesn't have to be a direct accountancy experience. It could be in something else. It could be something as simple as you were a bookkeeper for your sports team or your charity. It doesn't have to be a direct kind of accountancy job. So the deadline for UCAS applications is the 15th of January, and this is hugely important, right, for applying to any university. All the universities have entered into a contract with UCAS that says we agree to consider every single application we receive, no matter when we receive them, as long as we receive them on or before the 15th of January. If we receive them after the 15th of January and we've already got a lot of good applications, we don't have to consider that application. So to give yourself the best chance of being considered and getting a place, you make sure you meet that deadline. Now, the colleges will have set their own internal deadlines, and they'll be a lot earlier. They'll be way before Christmas, because the colleges have got lots of stuff to do as well, including writing you an academic reference. Usually see your the head of your course or some other academic that can vouch for your suitability for the course and the level that you're applying for. And then there's some administrative stuff as well, and it's usually the college that presses the final button, because you apply through the college, and it's usually the college presses the final button that sends the application off to UCAS. So make sure that you're talking to your lecturers, your student services within the colleges to make sure you know what the deadlines are. You can apply to 5 different courses at 5 different universities, or 5 courses at one university. It's entirely up to you. The one thing you shouldn't do, and I mean this most sincerely, is don't just apply to one course. Apply to more. Accountancy is a popular subject, so you want to make sure that you've got the best chance to get an offer. If you get 5 offers for 5 universities or 5 different courses, then brilliant. Then you're in the best position to make the choice of the one you want to do. But don't just put all your eggs in one basket. If you haven't started the UCAS application yet, there's lots of bits you can do that's not as involved as the personal statement. So the personal details, hopefully you should be able to do all your personal details. You should know your address, you should know your date of birth. These kind of things. Your course choices might take a little bit of time, but that's okay. You can dip in and out of this application at any time. You don't have to just sit down and do it all in one go. Your education as well. So put as much information as you can about any qualifications you might have in the past, because that can often help us get a picture of who you are. Even if they're kind of older, it's really worth mentioning them. We might not necessarily rely on them, but it's good for us to get a good rounded picture of the kind of student you're going to be. Employment, there's a lot of kind of information about paid employment there. It's not unpaid, it's not volunteering, it's paid employment. And this can actually save you some time in writing your personal statement. Because if you've written in your employment bit that you are a sales assistant for Next, and on a Saturday, and you've been doing that job for the last 5 years, you can then just refer back to that. You don't have to say, I have a Saturday job in Next, because you've mentioned it in your employment. In your personal statement, you can just say, in my job for Next, and it cuts down the amount of words you need to get over your message. And trust me, there is a word count, which we'll come on to. As I mentioned, there's a section for references as well, and written by your, preferably by an academic, someone that knows you really well and knows your abilities really well. So, in your personal statement, why do you want to study your choosing course? Why do you want to study accountancy? Why do you want to study finance? What is it that floats your boat about that subject? Any kind of relevant work experience, subject-specific experience, anything like that, and how that is relevant to what you're choosing to do. And then transferable skills with examples. And if you've got any future plans, if you've always wanted to, I don't know, head up the stock exchange, or work for Tesla. Heather McGregor mentioned Tesla earlier on. These are all things that you can mention, because these are the reasons why you want to study the subject. This is all valid information for us to understand where you're coming from and why you want to study that subject. As I said, keep the content positive, keep it relevant to courses you're applying to, and work on the what if, so what philosophy. If you write something down, if you write a sentence down, you then ask yourself, so what? You've told us something, and so what? How is it relevant to what you're applying to and what you're trying to tell us? As I said, treat it like an essay. So make sure you're checking your wording and you're checking your grammar. Make sure your language is really good. Don't just use spell check in Word or another document package, because English is a great language for lots of words that sound the same and are spelt differently. So you may have wanted to say here as in location. You might have typed here as in I hear something with my ears. Both of these things are going to get through spell check. So it's really worthwhile reading things over. Try not to use quotes from other people. They tend to get overused because they tend to be, you know, if they're famous quotes, they tend to get overused and they just take up time and space that you could be using to tell us about yourself. Try not to overuse cliches and the word passionate. Lots and lots of people use passionate lots and lots of times. They are very passionate about everything. But passionate in and of itself doesn't tell us anything. You're passionate about the subject, great. What we want to know is why you're passionate about the subject. As I said, please don't come out with negative comments or excuses. It's all about the positivity. We want people that are motivated towards the subject. Resist the temptation to be funny, resist the temptation to do jokes, because your sense of humour is not necessarily the sense of humour of the person reading the personal statement. And it might not come across the way you intended. As I said, the so what rule. So don't just say I was the bookkeeper for my local squash club, because then somebody's going to say brilliant, and what? What relevance is that to me? What you say is, when I was doing bookkeeping for my local squash club, I realised that, or it gave me experience of. You expand on it, you avoid standard statements and make sure that you're explaining what you're trying to get over. And that bottom one is really, really important, particularly the plagiarism bit. All UCAS personal statements are put through software that will look for similarities. So there's lots of personal statement mills on the internet. You will get caught out. They will be found out because the software will identify them. And what happens is UCAS send us a little line that says this personal statement is 80% similar to another personal statement. Now, this can also be applicable if you've applied in previous years. You need to rework that personal statement. Apart from anything else, you've got another year or two worth of experience, but this software will also pick up because it doesn't compare names. It just looks for previous similarities. We can do what we want with that statement. This is similar to another personal statement. If you're lucky, the university will go, right, okay, we'll give you a chance. We've had this. Can you explain it? Can you rewrite it? Other universities might just use that as an excuse to reject you, and you don't want to give them reasons to reject you without considering your whole person, your whole application. So it's really, really important to remember here that there's a character limit and a line limit. And it's easy to forget that, because you can actually put more than 47 lines and 4,000 characters into the space for the personal statement in UCAS, but we won't see it. The computer will literally cut you off in the middle of a word. However, please don't use that as an excuse to go for a stream of consciousness. Please use paragraphs, punctuation, spaces, grammar, all of those kind of good things, because bear in mind we will be reading these online, and that can be really, really difficult to maintain concentration if you don't do that. Make sure you give examples of your own experiences and locate them in the context. So make sure that they're relevant. Avoid starting every sentence with I. That is a common problem because people can get a little bit carried away. As I said, proofread it, don't just rely on spell check, and make sure you've left yourself enough time to get everything done. You don't have to write the personal statement in one go. It doesn't have to start from a flow, just like any other essay. You can plan it, you can build it up. Even if it's just writing a sentence that says, I really like accounting, or I've always wanted to work in the finance sector. It's a start, and you can then play around with that and sort the formatting and sort the layout and the flow and all these different kind of things. But make sure you're giving yourself time to work on it, to write it and to rewrite it. As I mentioned, the academic reference is part of your application. You can discuss this with your college lecturer, because there might be some things that you don't want to include in your personal statement, but that you'd like them to include. For instance, something like, are there any extenuant circumstances or adverse situations impacting your study? There is a difference between a sob story and a real reason why your studies might have been interrupted, or you may not got the grades you wanted last year, but you'd be better this year, you know, especially now, given the pandemic, you might have fallen ill, you might have had caring responsibilities that you didn't know about before. So there's lots of information that, if you want to, the college lecturer can put into their reference. But they're there, as I said, to let us know that you're applying for the kind of courses and the kind of entry points that you'd be really good for and really suitable for. Again, you want to leave your referee enough time to complete this, and this is really kind of Apple for college lecturer time instead of Apple for teacher. You definitely don't want them rushing this. You want them to give it time and consideration, because we will give weight to what they say. So, key dates. Obviously the 15th of October has passed, but this is a kind of standard slide that we use for UCAS key dates. As I mentioned, the 15th of January is really, really important. Specifically for accountancy degrees, they will all be using that 15th of January deadline. Most universities have agreed they will try and make all their decisions by the 31st of March for all the applications they've received by the initial deadline of the 15th of January. And what they will do is, if you've had all your decisions by the 31st of March, you have until the 5th of May to decide what you want to do. So hopefully you're really, really lucky and you get offers for all the courses you've applied for. You can then take some time, access kind of online applicant or offer holder sessions and find out some more about the courses, and then you can take some time to decide what your firm choice is, what your insurance choice is, and then you decline the rest. Those deadlines are really important, and you will get that deadline on UCAS track. You will see it on your record what the deadline is for you to apply, that applies to you. If you go past this deadline without making your own decisions, UCAS will decide for you and automatically decline you from everything, and it can be very difficult to get those offers back. You can appreciate that we have to make more offers than we have places because we don't know if we're going to be your firm choice or not. So it's a little bit of a black art, but you don't want to put yourself in a difficult position. And then in the kind of horrible eventuality that you might not be holding any offers, clearing usually starts on the 10th of August 2021 this year. And it's really important to pay attention to that. If you're not holding any offers, usually a lot of information goes up kind of in the days prior. But most information will go up on UCAS, in the press, and crucially on all the university websites. If they have any places still available, they will appear through clearing and you can apply for them then. So that's great. That's me kind of done just now. I'm going to just go back to hopefully just me and not kind of horrible slides. And I'm quite happy to take any questions that I haven't answered. I'll just check just now. I did notice there was one about requirements for getting into year 3 with an HND. I'm hoping that I've answered that one for you. But if I haven't, please feel free to put that question back in the question box, and we can answer it again for you. Sam, is there any others that you've seen coming in?
Yep, there is another one here that's asking about experience and internships within the university.
Absolutely. Right, so we've got a career service. Most universities do. Our one is a really good one, even though we say so ourselves. And it's stacked full of people that are there to help you from your first day with us through to your last day and beyond. And it's not just about finding a job for you. It could be about helping you look for part-time work while you're at university. It could be exactly that. You know, how do I build my experience and my CV so that when I'm actually finished my degree, I'm in a really strong position to apply for those graduate jobs or to change, you know, and move somewhere else. So there's a lot of support available for finding things like those internships. It's also worth talking to lecturers as well, because obviously they've all worked in that in business, in accountancy firms, and they've got a really good idea of the particular field that you're in. So there's lots of people and lots of advice and support out there for finding these kind of internships, summer placements, all those kind of good things that help with building your CV and making you more saleable and attractive, and building your kind of employability skills for when you graduate.
Brilliant, thank you. We've had one in around personal statements, and so I think you mentioned transferable skills, but a question around does everything need to be directly related to accountancy, or are there other skills that they should be sort of mentioning or highlighting within their personal statement?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not about necessarily just about accountancy, it's about what would make you a good accounting student. So if you think about what would make you a good student just now, it's good communication skills, it's the ability to apply yourself. For a subject like accountancy, the ability to kind of think logically through things, possibly problem solving, that might be more relevant to accountancy than necessarily another subject. And there's loads of different ways you can exhibit that. So for instance, if I was writing a personal statement now for something like accountancy, I would mention that I used to help organise charity events. I used to work for a charity called the Tartan Army Children's Charity, which is a football supporters charity, and I used to help organise events that they did for fundraising, and there was quite a lot of logistical things, planning, organising, those kind of things. So if I was writing a personal statement now, I would probably mention something like that. And again, it's not just about saying, oh, I helped organise an event. It's about saying, I was an events organiser for this charity, which involved this, this, and this, and means I have these skills. And that's what I mean about that so what question. Don't just say I was an events organiser for a charity. Wonderful, thanks. And it's that and that's the crucial part of it. And noticed another question in there about entry requirements and points of entry. And I have to say, it's entirely up to you where you come in. You don't, just because you're studying an HND doesn't mean to say you have to apply for third year entry. If you want to apply for first year entry, you can. It's up to you what you want to get out of university life. And that's similar to that question about exemptions as well. I know there was a lot of questions about is it better to go into first year because I would get more exemptions? It really is about what you want to get out of university life. So if you want that full 4-year experience of studying at university, then fine. Please bear in mind that as long as you haven't had any finance from the from SAS, from the Student Awards Agency, before the course that you're currently on, you can get up to 6 years worth of funding. So you can get the 2 years worth of funding for your HND and a full 4-year degree at the same time. At the same time, so that's all your tuition fees as well. If you have had prior funding, then you can get in touch with SAS and ask them what they would fund. And what you'll find is they might not necessarily fund your tuition fee, which for university for Scottish students would be £1,820, but you will still be eligible for that student loan. Funnily enough, they're quite happy to give you the money that you're due to pay them back. So yeah, so it doesn't matter whether you get 3 A's in your HND and you want to start in first year or you want to start in second year, it's entirely up to you. How are we doing for questions, Sam?
Brilliant. We've got another one around the around the graded unit at the end of the year. So there was I just lost the question, but it was around there might not be a graded unit at the end of this year, and would that affect their entry requirements?
Right, yeah, this is to do with the SQA announcements about relating to COVID. Now, as far as I understand it, it's not that there won't be a graded unit. It's that the lecturer will give you a grade based on your performance rather than based on a project or an essay. So in normal years, they would say, they would literally say a task or a project that you would be working on for a period of time, or I think some of the accountancy ones were kind of tests and stuff. And they're not necessarily going to do that this year, but what they are going to do is just like in the school grades, the kind of slight mess that we had around the summer around school grades and predicted grades and stuff like that. The college lecturers are going to still award you a grade for your graded unit based on your performance throughout the year. So those unit assessments that you're doing just now that are pass-fail, they're going to become more important because they're going to look at all your performance throughout the year. It's almost like a second reference, and then they're going to figure out where you would fit into the kind of ABC grading. But if you're not sure about that, talk to your lecturers and they'll explain it to you. I think, I might be wrong, but I think the SQA have actually came out today or yesterday and actually told the college lecturers what kind of materials they're going to need to base their assessments on. So they should have a slightly better idea of how they're going to be doing that in the next couple of days. So please, please, please talk to your college lecturers about that.
Perfect. I think that's all of our questions in from just now. I'll just leave it another little minute just in case anyone has any last minute questions. But if we do have any more questions that come in, I'm sure we can put that to Darren and Heather and Tracy at a later stage and get those answers back to you. And I think there's lots of information on the website, isn't there, of lots of info for them to look at the courses and get more information about accountancy and finance. Okay, brilliant. So I don't think we've got any more questions, so I shall round up now, but thank you so much to all of our speakers tonight. So thank you to Heather, Darren, Tracy, Rachel, and also thank you to Steph, who was behind the scenes and helping to move between slides and fixing my mistakes. And thank you for everyone out there who's joined this evening. Hopefully you found it really useful and helpful, and hopefully it's inspired you to maybe consider studying at Heriot-Watt in the future, and good luck with all your studies and everything. So thank you very much for joining, and as I said before, this will be recorded and will be put up on the university web pages at a later stage, so if you do want to re-watch it, then we will put that information up on the website. But thank you very much, and good night.